Hey everyone, this is Joy. Welcome back to my channel. Thank you so very much for stopping by and watching. Today I have made a ridiculous amount of cards using the Spellbinders large die of the month. This is their birthday wishes for everyone, and I had so much fun with these large number dies. They made such gorgeous cards, so I cannot wait to share it with you. So let's get started. So here is what you get in this large die, and look at how great, what a great size these numbers are. So you have 1 through 9, the 9 and the 6 are the same, obviously. Then you have the big word happy. You have like a little pole, like a little stick. So it looks like you could put the numbers on that to stand them up, maybe in a cupcake, in a cake, or whatever. You have a large happy die, and the font is great. Then you have like the abbreviations, second, first, third, fourth, in different little fonts. And so they're super, super cute. And like I said, I had so much fun with this die set. What a great die set to have in your collection. These numbers are perfectly sized to fill up your card and make great cards. So here's the cardstock I'm using. This is from Cardstock Warehouse. I'm using Stardream Aquamarine, Stardream Coral, and Barely Green. I'm going to use some gold mirror cardstock, some white cardstock, some Simon Says stamps, rose lattice background, and the Waves cling stamp. So in my Misty, I have taken out the foam background, and I'm starting with a piece of this coral cardstock from Cardstock Warehouse. I have it centered in there. I used a little bit of tape runner to adhere my piece of paper to the center there. And this is the rose lattice background stamp. We're going to stamp up these cardstocks before we die cut our numbers because I want the paper to be decorative. So I'm using some VersaMark ink. I'm inking this up really good because I'm going to come in with some white embossing powder and do white on top of these really pretty kind of pastel colors. I just really wanted these cards to be just girly and really, really pretty. So here is the white embossing powder. I'm just going to sprinkle that on. Use my heat tool, heat it until it's nice and melted. I'm going to do this for the other colors, one of each, and then I'm coming in with another stamp, the Waves cling stamp. I'm going to do that for 3 pieces of cardstock. So I will have 6 pieces of cardstock total, 3 with this rose lattice, 3 with the waves. So here are the cute waves. I'm actually going to die cut it differently. So it's, I'm going to say, what is it? Vertical, not horizontal when I die cut the numbers from this background. So again, inking it up with the VersaMark ink, coming in with the white embossing powder, really making sure I'm getting a good impression. And I did prep my cardstock with an anti-static powder tool because I don't want little stray embossing powder pieces on my background. But isn't that a pretty stamp? I love this stamp. I think it is so fantastic. So anyways, I'm going to heat that until it is melted and shiny. So now you can see I've done this with all the cards. Again, that's the aquamarine. This is the coral, and then that is the Barely Green. Now here are these dies. I have a few numbers. I'm kind of hitting some like 21 and 40 and 50, kind of the bigger years, 16, 18. But then I just die cut with the rest of it, some random numbers, and threw together some cards like that. But I kind of wanted to have milestone birthdays. So I'm going to die cut these numbers out of all of the pieces of cardstock. So, you know, it takes you a minute just to get these die cut, but totally worth it. Isn't that pretty? So I'm going to finish taking these out. I'm just using my tool-in-one to help me get all of this paper out of the dies. And as you can see here, I've die cut this one from the wave stamp, and it's so, so pretty. This one's a little more mild, where the other one has more of the little flowers going on, so it's a little bit busier, but I think they're both super, super pretty. Now I'm using mirror gold cardstock. I am die cutting all the little abbreviations out of that, out of white cardstock, and out of black cardstock. I've used Ebony cardstock from Cardstock Warehouse, and I just did a ton of this die cutting. It was a little bit therapeutic. You know, I had something fun on the TV and just getting all of this stuff die cut. I'm also die cutting some flowers. That is from the January large die, the leaves and stuff like that, because I wanted to have flowers added to this. Now, a few of these numbers I also die cut from the Gold Mirror cardstock, as you can see here, because I wanted to have a little bit of a shadow. So the numbers here, this is the coral cardstock on a white background. I'm going to adhere this directly to the background on the left side here, using my tweezers to help me line things up. Easy to put down, your fingers don't get in the way. Using just some liquid glue, you could use tape runner for this as well. Then I'm going to add some foam tape behind the happy sentiment. Each letter is die cut separately, which is kind of cool because then I was able to play around and get my sentiment laid out in different ways. I'm starting on the far right side with the very last letter, lining it up on the edge, so that way I could get my spacing correct and working my way to the left. Now, if I was a smart crafter, I would have used a ruler like a T ruler to line up my letters. I didn't. Thankfully, I think they're all lined up. If they're not, please don't tell me because that'll drive me nuts. But I think they're pretty straight. Coming in with the gold abbreviation, and I'm coming in with the same pretty coral leaves, greenery, flowers, whatever, tucking that in around the right side of the zero. And isn't that super, super pretty? I'm going to glue everything on, and then at the very end, I will do the finishing details for all of the cards. I kind of had everything laid out and didn't want to knock one of my cards off on the floor and all my pieces go flying. So I thought for me, it would be better to just kind of glue everything together. Now this card, this is the aquamarine. I do have that back panel trimmed down slightly smaller than an A2 size card base. And I'm coming in with the black happy sentiment and the black abbreviation. That last one I also did matte onto gold. The 2 and the 5 were on gold. So here, this one is for an 18th birthday. I have this matted onto white. The background card color is barely green. This is the aquamarine. I'm keeping this very simple blue and white with the exception of the back card panel. I'm using some white flowers, white on white with the blue greenery. And I'm just going to adhere that center flower with some foam tape because I want that to have dimension. And then the other 2 flowers, I'm just going to tuck in around that center flower. Then I'm just going to adhere the word happy directly to the card panel. I'm starting in the center there to make sure I can line up everything and there's good spacing. It's not off to one side because if I didn't do it this way, I would absolutely glue it funny. So now that that's finished, the next card, this is for a 16th birthday. This number 16 does not have a mat behind it, but I am using foam tape for dimension. This is the coral cardstock. I'm adhering it to coral cardstock, coming in with white and coral flowers and greenery. The word happy is in white, and I'm just going to adhere that down directly to the card panel. And I'm just kind of adjusting where I want flowers to be. The last one had flowers in the center. This one has flowers at the top. I'm just kind of having fun with this die. I just think these number dies are so, so pretty. I don't have anything like this in my stash, so the fact that I do now makes me a very happy crafter. So I'm going to finish adhering that down. Now the next card, this is a 3 and a 5, and this has the rose lattice background on it. This is the barely green. I'm adhering this to the barely green cardstock in the back. I'm using white flowers and barely green leaves. And this I decided to do the word happy on the right side and just adhere it differently. So this is what I was talking about, the fact that each one of these letters die cut separately, you can really change up how the sentiment is laid out. I'm adhering that abbreviation directly to the 5. That is die cut in gold mirror cardstock. And then I'm doing the flowers underneath the 35, again in white and the barely green. So I'm just going to add that, and then that card is finished. Now this card is on blue, a blue background, the aquamarine background, but the flowers the numbers are die cut from the barely green. I'm adhering some pink flowers, gold and barely green leaves to that. This has foam tape behind it, and the sentiment and the abbreviation is in gold mirror cardstock. And I'm just adhering this to the bottom part of that card panel. And then I'm going to start with the center letter, which is the P, and just kind of line that up and adhere that down with some liquid glue. But isn't that really pretty? I like the contrast between that green and the blue background, and I like the flowers being on the numbers. I think these are some of my favorite cards. So again, just using a little bit of liquid glue, lining it up with my tweezers. You could also put foam tape behind this, but this one I wanted the numbers to be the thing that pops up off the page. I really wanted all of the numbers to be the star of the card. Now, this next card is really one of my favorites. I think it is so fun with this pink and black. I have it on white cardstock. This is well, it's not really pink, it's coral. Well, coral can be pink. So it's the aquamarine coral cardstock with the ebony black cardstock. I'm just doing black flowers on the pink and white numbers, lining up that sentiment on the left side, just, you know, straight up and down, which again, I think is so fun with this happy sentiment, making sure everything is lined up. And then I'm just going to center that 21 kind of between the H and the Y, if that makes sense. I am using foam tape behind it, and my little abbreviation is also done in black. I really wanted to keep this simple, but this card just kind of has a wow factor with that pink and black. So this one is definitely one of my favorites. So my last card is, this is one of my favorites too. I think it's so pretty with the aquamarine cardstock letters, and then you've got the coral background. The flowers are the barley green, the aquamarine. I've got the coral greenery and some gold mirror cardstock greenery. Again, the sentiment is the same thing with the happy, and the abbreviation is the gold mirror cardstock. I think this is one of my favorite ones too. And it gets even better once I start layering all the mats behind these cards and getting them onto their card bases, if that makes sense. So I'm just going to add the foam tape behind these numbers, just centering that in the card, and then finishing up with the abbreviation for 42nd, and then of course the happy at the top. I just really liked this font on this happy die cut. I think it is super, super pretty. So now that that's done, I'm adding the sentiment that says birthday here stamped in black ink. This has a black mat just on the top and the bottom of this card, as you can see there. And then I have it attached to an A2 size white card base. All of these cards are A2 sized. I am coming in with Simply White Nuvo crystal drops to add some little dots. And look at how pretty that one turned out. Okay, so for the 35, again, I'm coming in with some white, Simply White Nuvo crystal drops, adding it to the flowers, adhering the happy birthday, well, it's really birthday, which is from Simon Says Stamp Tiny Words Birthday, and I stamped that in Oreo ink from Tailored Expressions, adding the few dots with the Simply White Nuvo crystal drops. And look at how pretty that turned out. And you can see the dot in the center of the flower, which added a little more interest to the flowers, of course. And okay, on to the next super pretty card. I am coming in with the sentiment. This is gold embossed on this one, which I think is super pretty. Again, using the Simply White Nuvo crystal drops and just adding a few kind of around the number, keeping it fairly simple, not super, super busy. And then you can see all the pretty detail on that. Centers and the flowers, of course, with the white. And look at the detail. And the background has, the mat has the barley green on a white cardstock. And you can see how pretty all of those colors are when they come together. Okay, so for this one, this is the 16th. I do have this matted on a piece of the aquamarine cardstock, and that is cut to an A2 size, coming in with the Simply White Nuvo crystal drops, adding dots around, and again, centers to the flowers. But I think that pink is really pretty, popped onto that blue mat. And so that one turned out really super, super good too. With a a gold embossing powder sentiment that says birthday. So for the 18th card, I have a black inked birthday sentiment that's popped up on foam tape, and the white, Simply White Nuvo crystal drops all the way around the whole card, and again on the center of the flowers. This is matted onto blue the aquamarine cardstock, and then onto a white card base. And you can see a little bit of the white and the blue frame around the barely green background. Okay, so on to the next card. This is the 25th. This is matted onto the gold, which is cut to an A2 size. I'm adding a few of the gold greenery to the bottom there. The birthday sentiment is stamped in black, and that is popped up on foam tape. And this I'm actually going to come in with some gold, pale gold Nuvo crystal drops. Add a little bit of detail to this. I feel like this could kind of be a guy's card. I don't feel like this one is too girly, even though really that was kind of my whole theme, was to make all of these cards girly. But I feel like you could give this to a guy and it would be totally fine. Now look at all the detail on this. The gold drops add a lot to that. The little bit of gold at the bottom, but I think the black sentiment with the blue and gold really kind of pops this card. Not pops, that's not the word. It really kind of brings your eye to this card. It's just, I think it is a good contrast in those colors. Okay, here's one of my favorites, probably my favorite. And this I'm just coming in, keeping it the same, coming in with Ebony Black Nuvo crystal drops, added black to the flowers, the center of the flowers, and I'm adding black dots just around the number and around the numbers, and I think it turned out so pretty. I love this color combination. So now that that one's done, well, almost done. You're never done with the dots. I think you always want to put more, but it's super pretty. 2 more cards, you guys, and we are finished. Okay, so for this 40, coming in with the Simply White, this I have is on the blue background, and I trimmed it down small so it could be matted on the gold mirror cardstock. And then you have a good matte around with the white card base. And I like the look of this one for that reason. There's a good thick white card matte around. Added a little bit to the center of the flower, and then just quite a few dots around this one all around. I kind of couldn't tell if I was done or wanted more. But then that one is all done and super pretty. So actually this was the last card, not 2 more. That was the last one. Thank you guys so very much. I hope that you enjoyed this project. I really had so much fun making these cards, and I just want to thank you for watching. Thank you for all of your support. If you like what you've seen, please subscribe to my channel, thumbs up, comment, and share with your crafty friends. I do have some affiliate links below. It costs you nothing to use, but it helps me, so thank you, and I will see you guys soon. Bye.